The views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the station, its management, nor its advertisers.
It is 9:11, 9:12 actually here on Duma FM studio time, and as we mentioned, we are going to be moving into a new phase now, having a discussion with some financial wellness experts. They're going to be talking to us a little bit about financial education and a little bit more depth that they're going to be putting into this issue that we're going to be talking about.
Right. This is Duma FM, more talk, more music. The name is Tebe Morapi. I'm in the studio with my partner in crime. And on the morning edition today, in this part that we like to call Mojamoraho Kana the wind up, we are simply just talking financial literacy. Yes. The situation is a bit bad. Tough economic times have arrived in Botswana. It's so bad that people who qualify for loans are apparently having a tough time to get loans. Even loans for land, loans for anything, and the household debt has gone up. It's increased so much. And we thought it's time that we bring somebody to the studio so that we can talk to you about how you can solve your problem. From Strategic Wealth, we have an expert in the studio that I'm going to give the opportunity to introduce herself. What are we talking about when we say strategic wealth? Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Tebe.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Glad to see that you're getting comfortable in the studio. Now, the first question that I'd like to pose to you is
Strategic Wealth. We're a financial advice company. We give advice on different areas, asset consulting on pension funds, specialized lending, wealth management, and a very important part of it, financial literacy training.
Right.
That we focus on.
Financial literacy training.
Yes.
And who do you deal with mostly? Companies or just individuals?
We've been approaching companies because through the companies we have access to big groups of people at a time. And of late we've also been approaching schools, but that's part of our CSR. That's part of us giving back to the community. We're talking to the younger guys in the schools and trying to teach them at an early age.
About when it comes to money.
Yes. We need to start with them as early as possible. Yes.
Now, last week we met your organization. You were actually making a presentation somewhere, and one of the things that you pointed out was that these are tough economic times, and you did make a bit of a presentation as to what you mean by that. Could you please just go through that for us?
Okay. We're just speaking in terms of what we've noticed in the market or in the economy right now. We have a lot of debt, a lot of people taking out debt that they cannot manage. We have retrenchments at the same time. So you have people with debts and no jobs, things like that. Another thing that we could say we've noticed is that a lot of people don't understand our finances. So all these things grouped together just a recipe for chaos. And we're trying to deal with that.
Where's the first place? Where do I start when I want to understand my finances? What's the first intelligent move that I pull? Let's say, I post a scenario to you. I've got a salary, I'm a young man, I'm starting out. Look at me as a fresh guy without the debt. What is the first thing that I have to know? What are the little things that I must know?
Okay. I would say the most important thing for you to know would be your income. You have to look at exactly how much you're getting and understand your expenditure. You have to understand where your money is coming from, how much of it is coming in, and where exactly it's going to. If you can't put those two together, then you're never going to have a real grasp of your money.
But if you have a pay slip, that's pretty simple. Wouldn't you say so?
Yes, but people get money coming in, but they don't understand where it's going. So you see the money that's coming in, say your 10,000 pula, and you leave it at that. You have not accepted or acknowledged your expenditure. So you need to also look at that at the same time.
We are not budgeting.
We're not budgeting. we actually don't understand our money.
Yes. And this is something that you found is common in Botswana.
I think it's common, and it's not just the guy who's earning 2,000 pula. I think even people who are earning a lot more don't have a real understanding of their money,
right,
or how it should be working for them.
Okay. Look, of late the banks have said that we are not willing to lend now. This is what people are telling us. This is what reports are saying. Yes. Even though from the bank side themselves, they say they're okay. Those who are dealing with them say that they are not getting loans from the banks. Now, if you're a person who's right now sitting with a load of assets that you've bought from the bank, cars, land and everything, and you are currently paying off a huge part of your salary towards all this debt, what do you think a person should keep on just paying? Come to talk about understanding. Do you think a person should keep on just paying this debt, or should you sell some of the assets? And in terms of land, in terms of cars, in terms of clothes, in terms of whatever it is, what should you sell?
I would say first look at your assets and liabilities. You need to understand those two principles. See what will bring you a lot of value. If something is already generating a lot of money for you, that's not the asset you want to get rid of. If something is actually proving to be more of an expense to you, say you're spending more on your car, but you know you can get to work using a combi, rather get rid of that and get money from selling that asset. But you don't want to sell a house. Obo pagama combi, ke 350. It can be done. It can be done.
Yeah, so no batho ya no gore sengwe se batho ntse ba se dira ke gore ba gologe gore motho ha le mo maheteng jana a rekise koloi a pagame kombi. But I agree me gone wa tlhaloganya gore batho ba ngwe they have children. Ba tlhaloganya ba tweditse bana a particular standard of living.
I think that's the one big problem. It's as if we're trying to show our neighbors or other people that there's an expected way to live life. O lebella gore wena o kgona eng ha ile gore wa go tshwanela ke go gaola DSTV kana bana le bone ba simolle go ithuta go tsaya dikombi, then that must come into practice. You can't just live like your neighbor. How is your neighbor ene o kgonang ha ile gore ene o kgona go dropa bana ba gago etsetse le letsatsi wena ha o kgone ruta bana ba gago go tsaya dikombi.
Ma wa rutele go lebella BTV.
Yes.
In short,
read a book.
To read a book.
Yes. Read a book. Tamka ko ntle.
Ba le se go tlhala ba lebeletse DSTV mo ntlong. And these are the small things. And then I'd like us to talk about this particular debt where now you go out and you buy furniture on hire purchase, but not only just furniture, a lot of other things we're buying on hire purchase. What is your advice when it comes to this?
I would say where you can look at saving as an option, because saving will always be the cheaper option. There's no risk with saving. You save towards something. If you can't get it, you still have the little bit of money you've put together. You buy something on hire purchase, you're paying around 35% for that. You pay double the price that you would have paid. You could have done two things with that money.
Yes.
You see?
And it is for this reason that you discourage hire purchasing.
Yes.
Let's take a realistic scenario. Ke nna mo ntlong wa tlhaloganya ntlo ga ena ditilong. But there are no chairs in the house. Yes. And tota ke a bona re tota ke tlhoka re ke gore ka ditilo. Mme ke itse re hanga go lebisi ka bua le bone. Ba tla neela ditilo tseo kgwedi le kgwedi ke duela lebisi 800 pula. Wa tlhaloganya. Mme tota nna hela ke re thebe ga ke kgone go save 800 pula kgwedi le kgwedi.
Okay, how about the garden chairs so kana mangonse mo go tsone?
Montu.
Yes.
I'm talking about inside the house. Mr. Muthe, you're shaking your head.
Yes. My question is that how much of the culture ya rona mo Botswana, the way that we interact, the way that we socialize, it has an effect on how we use and understand money. Hona le certain cultures that are in place. Hona le sengwe gato go qosha. Growing up, you want, a good-looking car, a car that
so
won't just
can see you.
Exactly. Even though there's no food in the fridge. So shouldn't we be looking first at dispelling some of those cultures before go financial wellness?
I think that's a very important thing to point out. I think people need to understand what that personal relationship with money is. What does money mean to you? Is it for people to see what you have? Are you trying to impress people or show them that there's money everywhere? Are you trying to live through the month? Are you trying to build towards something in the future? So you have to get down to that. You need to start thinking about what it is you want out of your life. Yes. And in the long run, that doesn't help you. Whenever toba oba bonsang na ke rekile BMW or Mercedes, whenever aja every day.
Yes.
So think about what it means to you on a personal level.
Yes. The question that I really want to get to is, it seems like the environment itself, it's set up for debt. Looking at the cost of land nowadays, looking at inflation, looking at stagnant household income, we don't seem to have much purchasing power. The average Motswana.
Well, is your advice that you stop buying?
How can we get out of that cyclical, dangerously cyclical lifestyle?
If you have to stop buying, right? Only get your needs. Identify what your needs are and what your wants are. The one thing I would say is, if you can't decide what's important to you right now, if you're only living in, say, the moment, assuming debt and not thinking about what this debt means in the long run, then you're not going to get by. Like, you need to start thinking about what's important to you, what you need. Do you actually need to go and buy that furniture on hire purchase? Do you actually need to assume that debt? Or can you do it some other way? Can you do without? So think about it in terms of that.
Right. Before we start talking about the solutions, because we have to then come to that part where we talk about the solution, let's talk about good debt and bad debt. You financial advisors often talk about that.
Yes.
What is good debt? What is bad debt? And bear in mind, as you answer me, that a lot of debt is connected to emotion. I don't just buy a car. Yes, a good-looking car. I buy it because it makes me feel good. And when it makes me feel good, I can come to work and be productive. Can I buy some things?
Impulsive buy.
No. I'm not talking even about impulsive buying. I'm not talking about the odd jacket, shoes, and everything that people often buy. But I'm talking about the big debt that we take, and that makes us feel good. And then when we feel good, we are productive. Yeah, I'm making a case for these guys. Okay,
I'll clear it right now. Good debt is not the debt that makes you feel good. Good debt is debt that will actually have a benefit for you in the future. So if you think about, say, buying a property, you can buy a house and then later on it can generate rent for you, or you can live in that house. If you think about taking out a loan to go on a vacation to Sun City, then that's not a good debt. It makes you feel good in that moment, but think of it as an expense. As soon as you have to start paying it, you're getting nothing from it. You're not going to feel so good about that debt, right? So you have to think about how that debt will benefit you in the future. If you're going to take out a loan to pay for tertiary education, per se, then you're thinking, okay, I'm investing in my future. I am taking out a loan so that later on I can get a job that will hopefully cover this loan and help me grow. But if you're going to take out a loan to go and buy a TV, really, it's not going to benefit you anyway.
Yes. So, and some do often say that buying things on hire purchase is as good as taking a loan to buy them.
It is a loan.
It is a loan.
Yes,
because it's how much that value is worth, and you are paying that back. So in actual fact, it is a loan.
Yes.
Those furniture shops, those clothes stores that we buy these things on hire purchase from are actually borrowing us money.
Yes.
Not these things. I get it.
Yes.
Look, we talk about good debt, and we talk about the fact that good debt has got to be bringing you something back. Now, I went and I bought the expensive car, right? And it's making me feel good, and it's also helping me. I'm taking the kids to school. Things are happening within the household. I'm able to also generate some money here and there, even though I don't use the car for business, essentially. But it takes me to places where I can go and make money. Isn't that a good debt?
Okay. Say if you buy a car that's meant to help you, right? Any kind of car, that would be a debt that would be valuable to you. But if it's going to be a very expensive car that you can't actually afford, then it's not worth it. So why not take out a loan for a car that you can afford, the repayments that you can afford, and will take you from A to B. Right. It doesn't have to be a Range Rover. It doesn't have to be a Mercedes. Buy a nice Yaris. And it'll take you to the same places that Mercedes or the Range Rover would have taken you.
There's nothing wrong in doing it in a Nissan March.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Because the same thing you could have done, it happens anyway.
I'd like to ask a question. How do you identify a cash cow?
A cash cow?
A cash cow. Something that you see will be able to generate that kind of money that's sustainable. Because there's certain things that you may say, okay, I need this now, and there is some sort of value in it now. But then you have to, I must assume there's some sort of foresight when you're talking about investments and money and financial
Some
wellness.
sort of formula.
Yes. So is there a formula? Is there something that I could just, prima facie say, this is something that's going to generate money for me?
Okay, I don't believe in cash cows. I think in terms of making the right investments, you have to do your research, and you have to know that with any type of investment, there'll be some sort of risk, right? So you might put your money into a property, and for the next 6 months, 1 year, you can't even get tenants into it. But that's not necessarily to say that that was a bad investment. So you have to give your investments time. You have to know that there are things that are going to work out in the long term. So I don't think we all have Donald Trumps in us. We can identify what's going to make us $1 million immediately. So when you do make an investment, do your research, find out what the risks are, find out how long you might have to stay, find out how it's been performing, and the like. So you have to do your research. You can't spot cash cows. I don't think those big earnings can come at any moment. You just have to do the right
It won't
research.
fall out of the sky just because you made an investment.
No.
And you have to give an investment time to actually mature into an investment that makes money.
Any sort of investment
Yes.
has risk. Le dikgomo tota. Malwetse a kgona go tla ba a tsaya dikgomo tsotlhe. So anything that you invest in, o bo itse gore go na le possibility ya gore e be go sa tsamaye yaka ke sologetse.
Yes.
Right. People are actually calling us. Yes, right now. Should we take a call?
Yes, we can.
Duma FM, Dumela. Hello?
Hello,
Hello, sir.
le kae tse?
Re teng le kae ntate?
Nya re teng. Nna go gongwa ke dumalane le kganya gore o tse di garden chairs o di tsenya mo ntlong. Ke ra go mo a ke dumalane le kganya teng.
Gobaneng?
Gape re batla go face reality hela. Kana go na le gore a o kgone go save madi. Ne o ntse sa kgone go save madi a. O bo re nya tla ke go kolota e ka tsaya le di chairs e ka tsaya le sengwe le se o batla go se kolota. O ka kolota o itore kgwedi o isa 200 pula ole. Go na le gore o kgoboganye madi for nako e rileng ka tsaya le bo 6 months 8 months. For that 8 months o tla bo o bona re ena gore situation ha e go leta gore ka nna for 8 months, but situation ya go leta gore o ka nna wa kolota 200 o nna o ntse o duela kgwedi le kgwedi. Ke ra ka ngwe ka tseleng tsejalo ke tsela gore sengwe se se tla se tsamaya sentle.
Nyamera leboga mogolo. And so he
You can't
leaves.
afford to save, but you can afford to owe.
Yes.
I was going to get to that. If you cannot afford to save, there's no way you can afford to owe. As soon as o simolla go kolota motho o tshwanetse go budgetela sekoloto seo akere. Yaanong madi ona o ke beng wa duela as the repayment to the loan ke eng o sa kgone go a ba. O bo go kotleletse dio tso batlang go di reka.
Ditilo di ja 2000. Ke hua 2 years gore ke di duela. Ke duela 200. Kgwedi le kgwedi I can find the 200 in me to give to the furniture shop. But in all honesty, if I were to take that 200 and keep it there for those chairs, so that in the end there could be 2,000 after 2 years, when I go there with the 2,000 to the furniture shop, the chairs have increased in terms of price.
You could still find chairs that you can afford.
For 2,000.
Yes, if you can't afford the ones selling for a price that thing ile go godimo, buy other ones. That's why kere batho ba tshwantse go lebella gore bone ba kgonang.
Yes.
Batho ba tshwantse go itshoka.
Yes.
Like deferred consumption. You don't have to get things immediately.
Yeah. Or buy
can
cushions for
wait.
your garden chairs.
Cushions for your garden chairs. No, ra itse gore gona le batho ba ba kgonang go itshokela dio tse ba di batlang.
Yes.
Motho a go kotetsa madi go a go reka a car,
Yes.
or at least get half of the money for that car.
Yes.
Eseng gore a ye go tsaya sekoloto immediately. So for tsone ditilo itshoke, just because your neighbor o rekile lounge suite e jang 10,000, it doesn't mean you have to go and do the same thing. Ha o itse gore your neighbor o kgonang.
Right. The time is exactly 9:30. We have to go to the adverts. And then when we come back from the adverts, I'd like us to now start talking about the solutions. People are in debt, and we have to advise them. How do you get out of this? If a person is sitting with land, is sitting with cars, is sitting with all these things, how do they get out of that situation?
It's what we call the in-studio breakfast. Choose your breakfast platter. The morning edition with Dumi and Tebe.
Duma FM. More talk, more music.
The time is 9:34. The name is Tebe Morapi. We are on the morning edition, the part of the morning edition that we simply just call the wind-up hour. Mibiano, we are at the part that we simply call Moja Morago. We have in the studio an expert in financial literacy, and she's helping us out, and it is time for us to get those solutions from him. And this lady is called Kweketso Moseki, and she is from Strategic Wealth. And tlatsida gompieno ba gaetso re bua ka ga dikoloto tse leng gore re iphitlhela re le mo go tsone mo nakong tse di maswitse. Kweketso, nako e tlile mma go re bua ka ditharabololo. Ke ne ke re ke go botsela gore jaanong re ira jang ke iphitlhela ke le mo dikolotong ke rekile dilo ke a kolota. What do I do now? How do I get out of all of this debt? Do I take the things back? Do I go back to the loan, to the bank and renegotiate the loan repayment? What do I do? Kira jang ha ke iphitlhela ke le mo dikoloto kana ke tsa so se banka ntse se owner ebe ke se rekisa mo advertiser ke ya duela banka ke clear. What do I do? Or do I just skip the country and disappear?
Well, no, you don't skip the country.
I don't skip the country. No. You don't advise to skip the country.
They'll find you.
They will find me.
Yes, they'll
How?
find you.
I can disappear to Mexico?
But TransUnion, they can find you anywhere in the world.
They can find you anywhere in the world. Yeah. I get it.
I would say the first thing to look at really is to weigh your assets and liabilities. Ke one ma go re batlang go a ruta batswana na gore ha re di asset ra re eng tota ha re di liability ra reng. So di asset ke dio tse leng gore ona le tsone tse di tla go busetsang ka mos. Tse nang le value. You can sell them and get some money for them.
Right.
Your liabilities are all your obligations. So you look at your assets and weigh them against your liabilities. Ha ile gore go masemaso mo na le sengwe se leng gore o ka se rekisa lebella gore ke eng se se go busetsang thata. Say if you have a house o go tisetsa rent, the last thing you want to do is to sell that property because it's already bringing in some money for you. If you have other things that you can sell in your house, maybe jewelry, maybe old clothes, o ka di rekisa go bo real phako kwana.
The vacuum cleaner?
Vacuum cleaner. If you have something sitting in the house that you can afford to sell and live without, then those are the things you should be looking at first. Tse ding tseng hela tse leng gore ke di asset tsa gago but ha di go bodisetse kgwedi le kgwedi. I get di tse hela mo. Ha ile gore o tshantse go gaogana le TV ya gago, sell it.
Sell
you
the
understand
TV.
It? Sell the TV. You can survive without.
Yes.
There are other places you can go and watch TV. You can read a book. Okay, tunela hela ko lapeng. I get but o tshantse go lebella tsone dio tse leng gore di a go busetsa. O leke go di ba tsone tse leng gore di go generate la madi gone nyano o di be tse leng gore di ntse hela o ka simolla go lebella tsone. The other important thing,
what about the plot of land that one will have just sitting there? I say ya asana madi a go ya me a kgona go irekisa gone a irekisa
ha ile gore o kolota mongwe for that plot, or you can actually generate money from selling that plot, then rather o irekise. I can o generate madi o tsamo dikolotong ka re the other thing ka dikoloto ke gore ha ona le sone di kgona go go senyetsa leina. Di a record ya tsone dio tsetsa gore o kolota batho ko kae and nako o tlhokang go tsa sekoloto se sengwe gape ha be go kgona go ira yalo
ha di banka di tsano di adima.
How se o tlhoka go adima gape o na le a bad credit history, you're not going to get another loan from the banks. So it's in your best interest gore o protect the leina la gago. I get we tlotle ha ile gore o kolota motho o duele. I get o duele ka nako. Ere nako e tlhokang go adima madi tota wa tlhoka go le botlhokwa o bo khona go adima madi ao. But how ba tle go itshenyetsa leina re ka moso tlhoka thuso e be go sena ope o ka go thusa.
All right. Ha o khone go boela go bankeng go re banka ke iputsa ra ngwe ke sa khone re go nga ba go rekisetsela hatsi jana o bo boela go bona ba re hey ala ha tsele ka skele na mali le segeditse jana ke santse ke sena madi a go le duela.
I think di banka le tsone re tshwantse o tlhaloganya gore as much as ba ra adima madi, they're also running businesses. So it's not in their interest gore mongwe le mongwe o palang ke go duela ba setse ba renegotiate. They also need to be looking after their own interests. I get it. So o ka ya go bankeng ya gago wa go ba botsa gore me what options do I have? Ha ile gore gona le jaaka ba ka go thusang ka teng then it's fine. You'll take that step with them. But if they tell you, no, re heletse ha re heletseng teng, re tla tlhoka madi a gago ya nong wena o tshwantse o boela ko lapeng o itebelle gore ke ka bankanya mathata a me yang.
Go banke ga o kgone gore gongwe what solutions do they usually offer?
It depends on the type of loan you have.
Yes.
With some loans you can find out gore o kgona go extend the term of the loan, and maybe the repayments will be more manageable for you.
Yes.
But in an instance where they can't do that, then it means you have to go back to your own assets and liabilities and look at what you can change there.
Would it be allowable, do you think, gore re ke tsere asset ke rekile go bankeng ka sekoloto e re ke sa kgone go e duela ke be ke e rekisa e be ke ya go duela banka?
I think you'd have to approach your bank and find out if you're actually allowed to do that.
Allowed to sell it?
Yes, allowed to sell it. I mean, it's in the interest of that property that you still owe is in the interest of the bank. So I think if you need to find out if you can sell it, then it's best to approach the bank and find out what terms are there in whatever contract you've agreed to.
All right. Bua
le banka gago. I mean, o buile le bona ha o kopa sekoloto. Ha o setse o palwa ke go se duela, bua le bone gape o itse gore what can I do in terms of this loan? If I sell this property, am I not going against the contract? Do I have to come through the bank? Does the bank now have to repossess the property and sell it to cover the expenses?
Yes.
Can they
just let you sell it on yourself and pay them and loan
That's what I'm saying. You have to actually communicate with your bank and find out.
Yes.
It's wrong to assume your bank would say, when I see it takes it a go duel.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you hear about the fact that there are debt counselors in other countries. Do we have debt counselors in Botswana?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yes.
There are probably some people in the country, but I don't know any personally.
Yes. With strategic wealth, what kind of assistance do you give? Is it possible that, for instance, if people are listening to us right now and you're to give them your numbers, then they could approach you later and say, "Hey, I'm in a mess. I need help. Can you advise me?" Is there a particular service of that sort that you give out?
Okay, this is what we do through our financial literacy training.
Yes.
But what we actually try and do is get people to appreciate their finances as a whole, and debt is one of the areas we do cover. So we need you to understand at the end of the month. If you're going to get a debt, you have to learn how to budget it into your expenses. We look at getting people to appreciate the cost of debt, understand things like the interest on debt, the term on loans, the amount you're taking out, things like that. If you owe people, you need to pay them back. At the end of the day, any debt you have taken out is your responsibility. And to look after it or address that responsibility goes back to you managing whatever you're earning. Something has to give. If you owe money to somebody, you have to start allocating it from what you're earning to start repaying off that debt. So we can't pay off a debt for you, but we can tell you to better manage your finances so that you can address things like this.
Okay. It's time for us to go very soon. Can I just invite maybe 2 more calls?
Yes.
All right. The number to call is 3500131. I've got a financial literacy expert in the studio. Do you have a situation that you want to ask about? Believe me, she will answer you right here and you won't be charged a thing. Can you believe it? The number to call is 3500131, or you can simply just SMS us on 76281885. A we pikela go ngole mo seemo se leng gore wa ipotsa gore o irang ka sekoloto se kana o ire jang ka seemo se le mo go sone sa madi. Ne re mo biditse kwa no gompieno gore a tle go bua le rona ka gore ka gore batho ka bontsi ba ntse ba re SMS gone ka kwana o tota ba rra ba re ba na le one mathata a madia mme jaanong gongwe o tla batla thuso. Dume
Right.
Tata.
Nna ke mpe wa re hemegala re tere mo leletse kana ke re dikgantse dingwe ga o ka kwa di bua mo phego re tere buelele go thoko
o batla go motsala go thoko ntate ntla go nele megala.
Okay.
Ke ra gore a re hemegala go pa mogala.
Thank you, Ra.
Okay.
All right.
Our office number K 391-6675. But the best place to reach us would be on our Facebook page, Gay Planning for Your Future with Strategic Wealth. How na le dipotso re o ka re inbox, and then we'll respond to whatever query you have.
All right. Okay, let's just take one more call and or two more calls, and then we'll see how that ends up.
Hello.
Hello, Milama.
Erra.
Ertim.
Ugalempo.
Mpom.
If unona le sekolo pele batho, then o bo clear that sekolo to, then o tell you are blacklisted. What should you do?
Yes, you had a debt and then you cleared the debt and then you are still blacklisted.
Yes.
For that very debt. Thank you.
All right.
Very common question.
Okay.
I should guess. You're still blacklisted for something that you've paid off.
Okay, I think how setsu do etsa sekoloto se o ne ona le sona when you've met your end of the deal. So o boele go bathong ba eleng gore no ba kolota ba bontshe gore bona ke duetse sekoloto sa lona me ka ha ke ke le blacklisted kopa gore le solve mathata o linkitse mo blacklisting yo. And then wena ka boena o ka approach a TransUnion ka 45 pulo wa bona hela gore a ba setse ba tlile maina gago o bona ba sala morago o bona gore leina la gago ha le sa tlhole blacklisted.
But sometimes they say to you, even after you paid the debt, my friend, it's going to take 3 weeks to get you off that thing, and you need to take another debt very quickly.
But follow them up. I mean, that's your name. That's you have met your end of the deal and cleared your name. There will still be records on the fact that maybe you had defaulted. But if you don't need to be blacklisted for as a current defaulter, then approach the person or your creditor or the person who was your creditor and say, look, it's important to me to have this sorted out immediately. Until your name is cleared.
All right.
Yes.
Some people are simply just saying, one question just came in, food is the cause of poverty in Gabs. Food is you know what Gabs is actually his name. Food is the cost of poverty. Food is the cause of poverty. What should people do? Should they stop eating?
I don't think anyone can stop eating.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're all going to die of hunger. But you can do other things like buy in no-name brands, cheaper brands, buy enough groceries. Through the month. You don't need to buy the fanciest brands or buy the tamati for just buy what you need to get through that month.
Right.
Yes, but I don't think there's any way all right.
Well, any last words?
I would say people first need to go back to the drawing board and look at their finances. Look at what's coming in each month and what they're spending on. Basically, they need to budget. If anyone is going to go and ask for a loan, they need to make sure that it's money that they can afford to repay. They need to understand the terms and conditions of their loan. And if they can, rather consider saving as an option towards getting whatever they want.
All right.
And then finally, for that debt, also include it in your budget. It will be an expense. So those would be my last word. Think about your finances.
Think about your finances all the time and understand how much you make.
Yes.
Or your income is actually not your gross income.
Understand how much you make. Understand how much you're spending. And don't assume debt unless it's a need.
Yes.
Look at it in that sense.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in today and talking to our listeners.
Thank you, Tebe. It was a pleasure.
Great.
Keep it locked. Keep it locked. Keep it locked on Duma FM.
Duma FM. More talk, more music. More music. More music.